2025 was an absolutely incredible year for gaming, and so many unbelievable games came out across all platforms and genres, and I had the privilege of playing, well, not that many of them. But that does not mean I didn't complete a ton of games this year. Just not the games you might have thought of. These games. Sorry about that. Had to take the hat off because I was sweating after I dropped all those. But I want to thank you all to the final video of 2025 and just a nice closing out video for the end of the year where we're going to talk about all the games that I played this year all the way through, either beat or complete for the first time in what I'm calling my super fun end of the year gaming ranking tier list extravaganza. Let's get into it. In this video, I'm going to rank all 38 games that I played this year that I either beat or completed for the first time. So a game like Ghost of Yotai, for example, which I played a lot of, I wasn't able to finish it in time of the end of the year due to the sheer amount of amazing games I picked up around the same time as it. So games like that will not be featured on this list, otherwise the video would be hours long. Sue me. Please don't sue me. Please don't do that. So here's how the list will go. I'll be ranking each game from 38 all the way to my favorite game of the year. I also have 5 categories that the games will fall under that'll make up our tier list as we go along. We have complete fucking garbage, really bad experience, mid or meh, really good experience, and then a game that is so damn fun. I had so much fun with it that even though I just finished a playthrough of it and I have hundreds of games on the shelf right over there, I'm not going to touch any of those games, and I'm going to do another playthrough of this game immediately after I finished it for the first time because I loved it that much. That level of awesome game. Got all that? Good. Or for the sake of space when I show it on screen, F, D, C, B, and A. We are saved for this year. I do not have to talk about any games in the really fucking garbage tier, games that would just be not even funny to play, they're so bad, just awful, awful gaming experiences. All the games that we're going to talk about today had at least some redeeming qualities to them, which is good for us. So this is going to be a fun list, and let's get into it. We're going to chalk that up under things that we like to see. No garbage. Woo! We love that. Last thing before we start, I do want to remind you guys that this list is 110,000% subjective. These are rankings based on just how much fun I had playing these games. These are not rankings based on the quality of the game overall, the prices, anything to do with the game outside of just how much fun I had playing the game. So when we get further into the video and you see my little rankings pop up on screen and my ratings out of 10, a 10 out of 10 game does not mean I think that this game is perfect. In fact, a lot of them have flaws to them, a lot of flaws, but it is a 10 out of 10 gaming experience that I had this year. So just keep that in mind when we're watching this list. If your favorite game ends up low on my list or it ends up really high, don't put too much weight into it. It's just how much fun I had with it, and all of these games, to some degree, have a redeeming factor in them somewhere. So let's get into it. The only question left to ask is, what is the worst game I played and finished in the year 2025? Kicking things off, at number 38, we have SeaWorld, Shamu's Deep Sea Adventure for the original Xbox. This was the first game I played this year, and it was literally only up from here. This orca game that's a wannabe Echo clone has you swim around and battle deep sea creatures leading up to your grand finale showdown against Poseidon. And this game would have just been a meh game at worst if the game had ended with the Poseidon fight. But at the end of the game, because it is a SeaWorld game, they make you go back to SeaWorld, the amusement park, and have you perform, which is, I think, the actual hardest boss of all time. And it made me want to sell my original Xbox. So truly a bad gaming experience and the worst one I had this year. At number 37, we're getting kind of controversial already because I have Star Wars Shadows of the Empire. This classic N64 launch title is a game that I had really high hopes for. It's one my brother bought me for Christmas years and years and years ago, and I finally got around to playing it. And I sat down with my friend and we figured, we'll trade off levels, it'll be a lot of fun, and we'll beat the game together. But with janky controls, some brutal level design at times, the thing that made me despise this game as much as I do is actually not the fault of the game, but instead at my buddy's house where his N64 setup was converting the signal into HDMI, and we learned out after the fact that because of the converter, a lot of the levels towards the end of the game were just pitch black when you got into hallways. So we were basically just brute force walking our way through deep space because you couldn't see a single thing. And it wasn't until we beat the game finally at 4 a.m. and I went home and we looked up videos on just what those levels were supposed to be because we were so confused, we realized that, oh, it actually doesn't look that bad, and it's 100% our fault that it looked that bad. But nonetheless, because of the visual glitch, it was one of the worst things I experienced this year in gaming. Maybe if I played it again without the visual glitch, it would actually be a bit better. And honestly, that's it for the really bad gaming experiences this year. Just 2, and technically one of them's kind of bullshit because it was my fault. So really, really promising for the rest of this list. Nothing above the 2 games that we talked about now would qualify as a bad game. Just maybe average, maybe a little under average, but nothing bad from this point on. And here is a look at the current tier list with our 2 sad little games at the bottom as we get into the meh or mid tier games. Kicking off this section of the ranking with probably the most disappointing gaming experience this year, Conquer Live and Reloaded. I never gave Conquer a chance, despite loving the other Rare platformers on N64. And when I was finally able to get a copy of this on the original Xbox, before I got a copy of Conquer's Bad Fur Day on the N64, I simply just did not have fun with this game until like the second last or last chapter of the game, the war chapter, where you storm the beaches like in D-Day. But the humor to me just didn't hold up. Now that I'm older, I'm sure I would have appreciated it more. And all the potty humor and stuff would have been funnier when I was younger, but the controls pissed me off, and I just didn't find the game visually engaging at all. So for a game that was part of a legendary run of platformers, I really don't see myself playing this one again. Maybe if I ever come across the N64 version. As a massive fan of the Castlevania series, I finally got access to a legit way to play Kid Dracula that didn't make me homeless afterwards. This game, while an easier, more kid-friendly game inspired by the gameplay of the original NES games, it just didn't excite me in any of the ways the NES trilogy does. It's not a bad game, but definitely a letdown for someone who loves Castlevania as much as I do. Well, at least it's better than Castlevania The Adventure on Game Boy. Moving on to 34 and 33 subsequently, we got 2 Yu-Gi-Oh games from the Yu-Gi-Oh! Early Days collection. Starting off at number 34, I'm a massive Yu-Gi-Oh! Fan, and I used to play competitive retro Yu-Gi-Oh! Until recently. In fact, some of you sub to me might actually be from when I made Yu-Gi-Oh! Content before making the switch to video games. So when the Yu-Gi-Oh! Early Days collection was released this year, I had to pick it up because one of the best ways to experience retro Yu-Gi-Oh! Is through the video games. The original Duel Monsters was a Japan exclusive game, and it's exactly what you would expect from an old game in the series. You got the anime rules, pretty simplistic, very mindless to play, but at least it's a fun time waster while watching something else. But the gameplay, not too deep. And at 33, we got Duel Monsters 2, the sequel to the previous game on this list, kind of literally the exact same game as the first one. There's a few more cards in the card pool, some of the duelists that you can duel against are different, but otherwise the gameplay is 100% the same, unchanged. It's just more Yu-Gi-Oh! So is it better than the first one? Yeah, but not by much. At 32, we have Dungeons & Dragons Chronicles of Mystara. It was a fun enough side-scrolling beat-em-up arcade experience that a friend had actually recommended that I play. I thought it was fun for what it is, but I suck at and really just don't like beat-em-ups outside of River City Ransom on the NES, and I never really enjoy these types of games as others from outside of the genre. So it was a fun experience overall, but not my cup of tea. Moving on to 31, we got one of the more underrated games that I've had sitting in my collection for a while, which is Alien Syndrome on the NES. I love the original NES library because it's big enough that there are still hidden gems out there that I don't know of, like Alien Syndrome. It's been sitting on my shelf for years and I've never touched it. And for being an unofficial Tengen cart game, I was pleasantly surprised by it. It was tough at times, very fun little top-down shooter, timed missions, very short game, but enjoyable. And at number 30, we are going to be going back to Yu-Gi-Oh! For a completely off-the-wall side game where you take everything about the card game, throw it out the window, and roll dice in a back alley for money. All jokes aside, this is a version of Yu-Gi-Oh! That is very obscure and hard to get used to, but I finally gave it a chance this year, and once I learned how the game actually functioned and watched some videos on understanding the actual rules of Dungeon Dice Monsters, I really enjoyed myself. Breaking out of the 30s and moving on to number 29, we have the original Dragon Warrior on Game Boy Color. Nothing beats playing an old school game that I classify as a guide-required game. OG RPGs like Dragon Warrior 1 can be really unfun when playing it blind nowadays, but by using a guide to assist with the playthrough, it let me appreciate this classic game where this version, the Game Boy Color version, was a nicely improved way to play the game that started it all for the series. Very fun and relaxing, something good to play in the background while I was watching some TV. At 28, we have Pac-Man World Repack. This series of games, honestly, I had never touched before, so I'm glad I picked up Repack this year, and I'm surprised I hadn't played it before because the platforming, cartoony graphics, the level-based worlds all appealed to me, and while I thought this was a very simple and easy game, there were some great moments that definitely made me excited to continue playing the series, and what I take as visual improvements, because the graphics look good, were a really nice touch in Repack. And at number 27, we have a game that you'd be familiar with if you saw my Banjo-Kazooie video I did this year on Forgotten Banjo-Kazooie games. We have Grunty's Revenge, which is short, but really enjoyable and a fun way to enjoy Banjo-Kazooie on the go. And that top-down art style is very nostalgic to me as someone who grew up playing the Game Boy Advance Spyro games. It's just a really fun, cozy game that gives you that Banjo and Kazooie feel on the go in a way that's different than the N64 games. And with that, we have completed all of the bad and okayest games that I had played through this year and finished. We still have 26 games left on this list to review as we count down all the way up to my favorite gaming experience this year. So if you're enjoying this video and you're enjoying my tasting games so far, albeit not the best ones, then leave a like and subscribe because this is the kind of stuff that you can expect me to play on this channel moving forward into the future. And if you're enjoying this video, why not like it and subscribe? It's easy, it takes 2 seconds. And with that, we are going to take another look at our tier list, now updated with the mid and the okayest games on the list. And we are going to move on to our really great gaming experiences this year. Unfortunately for you guys, at 26, the first game to crack the really good experience tier is Metroid Prime 3 Corruption. I say unfortunately for you guys because if you've been paying attention to the channel, and if you're new to the channel, I'll fill you in. My first video I did was on Metroid Prime. I just released a Metroid Prime 2 video that did insanely well relative to my channel so far. So you can bet your ass that Metroid Prime 3 is the next video that is coming out on my channel. You can expect it early in January. So if you want to hear my thoughts and opinions on that game, you're going to have to stick around, subscribe, and look for that video in January when it comes out. A little bit of a hint for you though, it's in the really good experience tier. Luigi's Mansion 2 HD comes in at number 25 on my list, and this was actually my first time playing Luigi's Mansion 2, period. I never touched Dark Moon on the 3DS. As a huge fan of the original and the third in the series, this game still offered a lot of my favorite Italian plumber in his element, but it is a weaker game than the others in the series, in my opinion, so it's not too high on this list. At number 24, Crypt of the Necrodancer might legit be one of the games that made me feel the stupidest in my life. I legit don't know how I managed to beat this game because I have no rhythm. I play Guitar Hero upside down like a fool, and now I'm expected to do combat and think quickly to the beat of a song. An amazingly difficult gaming experience that both made me want to rip my hair out, but feel really damn accomplished for beating it. At number 23, we travel to the world of South Park. And as a fan of the show and the original RPG, The Stick of Truth, South Park: The Fractured But Whole offered all the same laughs as those do, with the only knock against it really being that I just simply enjoyed the gameplay of The Stick of Truth better. The story was funny, the characters are fun, the whole game as a whole is incredible, but I just like the gameplay more in the other one. Coming in at number 22, we have Tony Hawk's Pro Skater 3 and 4. This was everything I wanted it to be. THPS 3 was one of the most important games of my childhood, and the game that started my love of skateboarding video games. The remake of 3 and 4 were as awesome and exciting as I had hoped for, and definitely games that I need to get back to soon because I could play Tony Hawk literally for the rest of my life and I'll never get bored of it. At number 21, the game that kicked off my reboot of the channel and transitioned me into the world of gaming videos, we have the original Metroid Prime. A fantastic game that suffered from some flaws of a first playthrough that lands it here on my list a bit lower than others would expect, unless you saw my Metroid Prime 2 video. However, I expect it's a game that does grow on me as I do more playthroughs in the future. It is also responsible for one of my favorite games I played this year, as a bit of a spoiler for what's to come on this list. I think you know what it is. At number 20, we have Banjo Pilot, which was probably one of the more surprising games I played this year. Again, if you watched my Forgotten Banjo Games video, I had no idea that this game existed until this year. And for being a racing game on the Game Boy Advance, I had way more fun than I could have ever imagined with it. Leaving the 20s and entering number 19 with one of the most iconic NES games of all time, DuckTales. I figured that this year was worth revisiting because it had been a while since I'd played it, and I had never gotten the best ending, so I tried to get a score worthy of that best ending, and honestly, any chance to listen to the Moon theme, I will take. Not my favorite NES game of all time, but one of the all-time greats. At number 18, we have the Switch 2 with Mario Kart World. This came out while I was on vacation. I was on my honeymoon, actually. So when my wife and I had come home, we played this game for so long and with all of our friends for weeks and weeks and weeks. And while it's not my favorite Mario Kart game, it is still Mario Kart. I loved it. The levels are gorgeous in this game, especially Rainbow Road at the end. The wall riding mechanics are a lot of fun, and nowadays you see some of the updates they've made to the intermission courses. You can tell that this is a game that's going to be special in a couple years, similarly to how Mario Kart 8 kept getting improvements throughout its life cycle. Right now it's at 18 on my list, but it is a hell of a game, and I expect it to be rising up the ranks as the years go on. At number 17, we have the game that had the biggest turnaround for me in terms of my perspective on it, Fable Anniversary. I'd originally tried playing this game by playing the original Fable on the original Xbox, but I just had no fun with it at all. I remembered that I had bought Fable Anniversary as one of my first Steam games ever, so I made the switch and ended up loving this game so much that when I had beaten it, I almost started another playthrough upon beating it so that I could 100% it, and even though I never got around to doing that playthrough, I loved it so much that I was very, very close to doing so. I love how everyone claps when you kill people in this game. It's so stupid and it's very out of place, as is the fart button. It's just one of those wacky RPG experiences that feels so classic at this point, and I had a lot of fun with it by the time I finished it. At 16, we have Dragon Quest III HD 2D. This game kicked off my biggest adventure in gaming by breaking me into the RPG genre head first with no looking back. As I enjoyed playing this game so much, I bought every other game in the series, which, as you might know, is not cheap. I did a video talking about this experience and blowing $1,000 on all these games, so you should check it out after this one. Moving on to number 15, though, we have Dragon Quest I HD 2D. I know that it came out with Dragon Quest II HD 2D on the same cart, but I'm just talking about the first game, not both games together. This game took everything I loved about the third and improved upon it significantly. This game was harder with a single party member, but it expanded on the story of the original Dragon Warriors so much that I cannot possibly get into right now, which is why I'm doing a video on Dragon Quest I HD 2D in the new year, so you're gonna have to stick around if you want to hear my full thoughts on this game. It's incredible, but you're gonna want to watch that video when it comes out. Getting away from Dragon Quest for a second and going on to number 14 with Sly 2: The Band of Thieves. This is exactly what a sequel should be. The original Sly Cooper was one of my favorite games I beat last year, and Sly 2, with its open worlds and its ability to play as Bentley and Murray alongside Sly, adds for some much needed variety to the series, gameplay-wise, but it also adds and expands upon the Saturday morning cartoon vibe of the first game that made me fall in love with this series to begin with. And with that, we are done with the really good experiences that I had in gaming this year, the mid-tier okayest experiences, the bad experiences. All of that is done, which means we have 13 games left on this list that, in my honest opinion, are perfect gaming experiences for me. It honestly is astonishing that I had 13 gaming experiences this year, start to finish, where I was like, wow, what an incredible game. That might be one of my favorites of all time. So, down in the comments, I want you to do me a favor. Let me know what your perfect gaming experiences were this year, and because I didn't have any, what were your fucking garbage gaming experiences that you had this year? Because I like looking into mediocrity. I like bad games. I didn't experience enough of them this year, so I want to hear what you guys played this year that you would qualify as bad, or, like I said, perfect. Here's our third look at the tier list, updated with all of our games to this point, and without further ado, we kick off our final tier with game number 13, Devil May Cry 5. Devil May Cry 5 was a breath of fresh air after the letdown I experienced with the fourth game in the series. I think Devil May Cry 5 took everything good that the series has ever done, and it slapped it all into one incredible demon hunting game. Peak DMC here with DMC 5. At number 12, we have a Legend of Zelda game that I cannot believe I missed up to this point in A Link Between Worlds on the 3DS. The Legend of Zelda series up to this point is one that, until Tears of the Kingdom really, I've never played any of the games on release. So a good chunk of them I had just never played, like A Link Between Worlds. And I'm genuinely sad that I never touched this one until now. It takes a game like A Link to the Past and modernizes it, even though it was a 3DS game at this point, but it makes it into such a grander adventure. The wall mechanic where you go into like paintings and stuff, it's just so well thought out. There's not a dull moment in this game, and honestly, for people who love 2D Legend of Zelda, this might be the best one that I've ever played. This is a damn near perfect Zelda experience, but is it my favorite Zelda game I played this year? I don't know. Moving on from that, at number 11, we have Animal Well, a game that captivated me in a way few games have in a long time. As a kid, it was easy to sit down and just sink hours upon hours into a game without blinking because you got nothing going on in life. These days, it's harder to get that undivided attention for a gaming session, and yet when I first booted this game up, I almost didn't stop playing it until I beat it. And then I recommended it to a buddy, and he did the same thing. It was truly just a magical game, start to finish. Very well done, Animal Well. Very well done. Breaking into the top 10, we're starting it off with a throwback to one of my favorite games in Star Wars Battlefront 2 for the original Xbox. This year I said, hey, what if I just played a whole lot of Star Wars Battlefront? And I decided that I hadn't 100% of the game. So I went back and I played everything in the story, the Galactic Conquest, everything on the highest difficulty, and I just played multiplayer enough times that I was able to get the elite ranking in all the medals, which took me forever, but it reinforced my love of this game, and I'm happy to say I finally 100% completed it. And moving on to 9, because I'm not a liar, we have my favorite Legend of Zelda game I played through this year in Echoes of Wisdom. I cannot think of a Zelda game other than this one that I enjoyed so much I pushed 100% complete it on my first ever playthrough. Such a fun and innovative game, being able to copy enemies, copy objects in the world, and use them to solve puzzles and navigate the world in unique ways from everyone else who played the game. It's truly just a perfect modernization of the series while still appealing to the old school Game Boy games that came before it. Now, this might be the highest ranking Zelda game on the list, but is it the highest ranking Echoes game on the list? At number 8, we have a game that doesn't have Echoes in the name, but instead has a Legends in the title with the Pokemon Legends ZA. I am a lifelong Pokemon fan, and while I know so much discourse and displeasure about the new games are stirred up online, I continue to get my enjoyment out of these games, and Legends ZA was no different. On release, I put well over 100 hours into this game. I found the story to be great and exciting. The new battle mode is a fun change of pace. The online is enjoyable, and the DLC, even though it has its issues with its price point and people aren't happy about it, I felt like it added a lot to the game, and it was just one of the most fun games I played this year. Nothing insane about it, but it's just more Pokemon, and I love that. At number 7, we have a series of games that I started playing last year, but I finally played Uncharted 4 this year. In my lifetime, I had never touched an Uncharted game until last year when I played through the original trilogy, and this year I was determined to play the 4th, and it was unbelievable. I love the story in this game. The gameplay is the best it has ever been, and the environments you find yourself in throughout the whole game were better to me than the rest of the series. I genuinely never wanted this game to end when I was playing it, and when it finally did, even though I was happy that I had finished such an incredible game, I was still sad that it was over, and I can't wait to play it again in the future. Just outside my top 5 this year, we have a classic game in Kirby Air Ride for the Nintendo GameCube. Probably my favorite GameCube game growing up, and before the Nintendo Direct happened that revealed Kirby Air Riders this year, I had already committed to finally going back and completing this game since as a kid, I never got all 120 checks in Top Ride or City Trial. Don't ask me about Air Ride mode though, but I felt it was time to get all 360 check marks and get everything I could out of this game, and I can finally say that I have. But is this going to be the last Kirby Air Ride game on the list? Starting off the top 5, as a bad Mario fan who has yet to finish playing through Mario Odyssey, I committed to getting the hot new Nintendo 3D platformer in Donkey Kong Bonanza on release, and it hooked me. I just love how this game feels, how it flows. The ability to 100% levels as you go through the game made the game just a grind in the best way possible, and it has one of the greatest final boss fights in any Nintendo game that I can think of. Moving on to number 4, we have one of the biggest games this year, not because it came out this year, but because its sequel came out this year. We have Hollow Knight. This game is special. I don't know what else to say. It had always been talked about and hyped up, but I knew literally nothing about it outside of it being really damn hard. I finally took the step this year and I played it for the first time, and it literally took my breath away. The difficulty, the ambiance, the art style, the eeriness, the satisfying feeling you get when you see the credits roll, just incredible. And at number 3, we have the game that brought me the most this year beyond just being an incredible gaming experience, Metroid Prime 2 Echoes. This game took my channel to another level when I made my most recent video on it, as it was the first video on my channel to completely gain momentum relative to all the other videos I had made. This game was fucking perfect. I loved it. Took a good game in the original Metroid Prime and it turned it into something special for me. In fact, I could talk about this game forever, or more specifically 24 minutes, which is exactly the length of time of my Metroid Prime 2 video. So if you want, go check that video out after this one. I know I keep saying that, but I don't make the rules. I made videos that go watch the other videos. It's okay. Just do it. But getting into my runner-up this year for best game I played all year, the sequel that no one could have ever expected happened to be the sequel to one of my favorite games as a kid, and it also happened to just be an incredible gaming experience. We have Kirby Air Riders for the Nintendo Switch 2. This game is legitimately perfect to me. I'm genuinely surprised I don't have it as my number 1 game this year. Hell, I had the original, that's 2 decades old at this point, at number 6 on this list because I had finally completed it this year. You already heard me talk about how much I love Kirby Air Ride, but everything that made the original game good is now improved in this game, and everything that was just okay has now been made to be exceptional. Air Ride mode, Top Ride, City Trial, Road Trip, the character roster, the air ride machines, the customization, the online. This game is going to go down as an all-time great game for me, and I think, like the original, is one that I'm going to be playing decades from now. Here we are. Game number 1, my favorite gaming experience that I had in the year 2025. I bet no one could have guessed this, but my number 1 favorite game I beat or completed this year was the original Dead Rising. This game started out as a game I legitimately did not care for years ago when I first tried playing it. But after seeing how much my older brother loved this game, I was finally motivated to not only beat it, but 100% complete it, which meant doing one of the most mentally exhausting gaming challenges of my life, and I completed the 7-day Survivor Challenge alongside my brother. This challenge almost broke me, and yet, because I got to experience it with my brother through the highs, the lows, the misery, the triumph, the failures, the successes, all the emotions in one, it might just be my fondest gaming memory to date. It might be this. This might be it. Over anything I had as a kid, I had so much fun and emotion behind playing this game and getting to do it with my brother that it ended up being more than just a special game to me. It ended up being more than an incredible game to me. It ended up being the most enjoyable gaming experience I had in the year 2025. It was a really, really good year, 2025. I'm excited for what 2026 has to offer. I want to thank you guys for sticking around and choosing to watch this video. I know it's the holiday season, so if you're watching this around when it comes out, I hope you had a good Christmas. I hope you have a good New Year's. I hope you were safe. I hope you had fun. And all I can say is I am Chris from NoSuccGaming, and I am so grateful that you are here with me watching these videos, and I will see you in the year 2026. Cheers.